And Professor of Economics Pat Utomi is advocating the introduction of entrepreneurship education into all courses offered in Nigerian universities as a panacea to tackling unemployment in the country. Professor Utomi, who is also the chairman of the Governing Council of Edo University, Yamo, was speaking at a lecture during the institution's Students' Cultural Week. The acting vice-chancellor of the university, Professor Emmanuel Aluyo, says the institution aims to produce graduates who are grounded in entrepreneurship skills and who will ultimately become employers of labour.
Edo University, Iyamo, located in Esakot West local government area of Edo State, an institution that is favoured to belong to the League of World-Class Teaching and Research Universities. Over the weekend, the students celebrated their cultural week, featuring dances, fashion parade, debates and football tournament. The celebration also featured lectures on entrepreneurship from members of the University Council.
The progress of any nation is a measure of the level of education of its citizens. Education provides a panacea for alleviating poverty through provision of employment and self-reliance.
Once you are punctual to any position, any point in time, people will regard you and look up to you and say, this individual is a respecter of time.
Chairman of Council, Professor Pat Utomi, while teaching on career maps, life skills and venturing, urged the students to note why they are in school.
I want to define this age with this technology. Everything you do, you become focused on that. You will fall many times, but the motivation to get up again is the fact that this age has not been defined by you.
With admissions for the 2017-2018 session currently open, the management of the institution throws more light on the courses available and the reason for the focus on entrepreneurship.
We believe that there is a major gap in the educational system in Nigeria today, and that is the reason why we have so many graduates who are unemployed.
We have the Faculty of Law, we have engineering, we have medicine and surgery, we have nursing sciences, Faculty of Science, we have Faculty of Engineering, then of course we have Faculty of Management, Sciences, Arts and Social Science.
For this university, the focus is to provide world-class education that will train great minds that can hold their own in a highly competitive world.
And for the latest in business, here's Anne Wilder.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Millicent, and welcome to Business News. The Bankers Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has earmarked 26 billion naira for entrepreneurs in the agricultural and equity investment sectors. Speaking after a meeting in Abuja, members of the committee say they believe the intervention will boost activities in the small and medium enterprises and create more jobs.
All the banks are supposed to set aside a portion of their profits, which will be made available for equity investment in agriculture and small and medium scale enterprises. So the board was inaugurated today, as well as the project review committee of that fund. So basically, the fund is ready to start implementing, and over the course of the next few weeks, there will be more communication as to how to access those funds. So entrepreneurs, small businesses, agriculture, the opportunity is there for equity funding for your businesses.
We have seen the economy emerging out of recession, and there are reasons to believe this. The major non-oil sectors of the economy have witnessed growth. Although the numbers are not yet out from the National Bureau of Statistics, but the fact that major non-oil sectors have witnessed positive growth, and because growth in this economy is driven largely by the non-oil sectors. Then there's this belief, a number of analysts believe that the economy could have been out of recession by the second quarter of 2017.
One of Nigeria's 5 Tier 1 listed lenders, Zenith Bank, has announced a 25 kobo interim dividend for the first half of 2017. The large-cap commercial bank has reported gross earnings above 380.44 billion naira, and that's a near 100% jump on a year-on-year basis. Pre-tax profit was seen higher at 92.18 billion naira, driven by a massive 389% growth in non-interest income. But analysts at FBN Quest say a marked upward revision of consensus pre-tax profit forecast for full year 2017 is expected. Profit taking across major sectors of the stock market pulled back the all-share index slightly today after 7 days of being in the green. BC Adebayo has the details.
Nigeria's stock market took a break from its 7th consecutive gains on Thursday, where the oil and gas sector declines, pulling the all-share index down 0.11%. The key index remains at the 38,000 level, though, with a market value of 13.33 trillion naira. Consumer goods stocks are still at the top position as the sector posted the most significant gain on the counter. Forte Oil's share price had the highest loss ahead of 26 other decliners, while Unilever was the top gainer among 20 others. Access Bank, Zenith Bank and FCMB were the major contributors to more than 362.7 million units of shares sold in 4,055 transactions. And that's it on the stock market reports. I am BC Adebayo.
Let's see how oil fared today. Prices fell today on concerns of global oversupply following Russia's plan to resume production pretty soon, while OPEC oil output rose by 173,000 barrels to 32.87 million barrels per day in July. And this is coming after OPEC raised its outlook for oil demand in 2018 and cut its forecast for output from rivals next year. Global benchmark Brent crude fell 86 cents to $51.83 a barrel after striking an 11-week high at $53.64 a barrel. In the meantime, investors are worried about attempts by OPEC, Russia and other producers to boost oil prices. Most of the world's leading stock markets remain jittery today as tensions between the United States and North Korea rise. Here is a snapshot of today's performance. And with those numbers, we end Business News tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
You first. First Bank.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. The Federal Ministry of Power says it has saved the government litigation to the tune of over 100 million naira. The minister, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says 39 billion will now be issued as loans for metering across the country. On our big story tonight, our correspondent, Olu Phillips, tells us more on the sector.
What is the difference? Nothing tastes like my Indomie.
When in 2013, the then government braced up to privatize the power sector, after more than 50 years of public ownership, it was a plunge taken in hope for a better today. 4 years on the journey, it's been a mixed bag of gains and challenges. Gains that take us to where we want to be, and challenges that threaten sometimes the gains. Perhaps keep us moving in circles when deadlocked, and sadly, challenges that may make nonsense of the entire process.
and whether or not we want to address the issue. The main problem for why there is lack of liquidity in the entire value chain is simply because the right economic model has not been used in pricing the cost of the product.
Energy delivery is a value chain process, and so efficiency and effectiveness of one is contingent on other. Clearly, there is no one-leg accounting, so that balance has to be found and plugged in if power outputs must be maximized. Metering remains a challenge for both consumers and distributing companies. The back and forth is best described with illustration of the chicken and the egg, which comes first. Consumers say, meter me and I'll pay. Discos say we can't do all of that at the same time for everyone simultaneously because it requires funding. Monies that are from loans that require bankable guarantees that are elusive because creditors can't see a cost-reflective tariff based on the current charges. An increase in tariff, consumers are weary to pay if implemented.
Some of us don't pay for energy. That's the truth. Some of the richest people don't pay for energy.
The Minister of Power on May 15, 2017 declared customer eligibility in the power sector. Simply, it means if you consume above 2 megawatts of power as a consumer, you can buy power directly from the generation company. This clearly will increase access to electricity. Also, to achieve incremental power, an energy mix generation has kicked in with several projects being undertaken. There is the 450 megawatts Azure power plant, 10 megawatts Castina wind power plant, 340 megawatts Afam power plant, 40 megawatts Kashambila hydro plant, 700 megawatts Zungeri hydro power, 29 megawatts Dadinkowa hydro power plant, 40 megawatts Gurara power plant, and 215 megawatts Kaduna power plant, which are at various stages of completion. At this meeting of petroleum and gas experts, the minister attempts to bring them to speed on developments.
Uninterrupted power then means that we become more efficient in how we use energy, we become more disciplined in how we manage energy. We don't have energy assets. We don't damage energy assets. We don't steal energy assets. We don't break gas pipelines.
Gas supply, which is a major issue, has to be fixed. As it stands, it is more profitable to sell gas abroad than to local needs because it is priced higher abroad. Government clearly needs to bridge that gap.
Unless there's an assurance of return, nobody makes investment.
On the average, no consumer wants to be burdened with technicalities on how it works. They just want power. The critical questions that must be addressed are government policies, financing structure that will cushion the effect of fluctuating exchange rate for better investment decisions. How do we ensure massive supply of meters? Managing the distrust between the sector's operators and the consumers. How do we get gas pricing right, which of course will be indexed on the product? Mirroring the sector, it is indicative that tariffs will be reviewed upwards. When it happens, will that decision be interfered with politics? Nigeria is still far from the required energy capacity. When will the wait be over? For the big story, Olo Phillips, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10. To take a further look at the power sector, we have been joined in the studio by Associate Professor of Energy and Electricity Law, Mr. Yemi Oke of the University of Lagos. And of course, Senegalese club US Open banned for 7 years following the crowd trouble which left 8 persons dead during a cup final last month. That's in sports news. So stay with us.